Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This week I'll be conducting the program. Vishwakarma Prabhu is in transit between Canada and Mexico for a special preaching program. They'll be joined there by Krishna Kishore and some other devotees for some Sankirtan program. We will be reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and also we will have a special event, which is a special section after we finish our introduction to the Chaitanya Charitamrita, based on how to take a bath in the 7 sacred rivers of India. How to take a bath in the 7 holy rivers of India. So for now, what we will do is proceed with the reading of the selected few verses from the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, from chapter 1, from text 19 or 18 to 22, which describe the benefits of hearing this great transcendental literature, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 1, text number 18. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Chaitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Text 19. 18 Thakur Gaudiya ke karye chenoyatma sat, 18 Charana Vandan Thire Morenat. These 3 deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnava, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text number 20. Grantera Rambi Kari Mangala Charana, Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text number 21. Se Mangala Charana, Se Mangala Charano Ai Trivida Prakar, Vastu Nirdesha Shiravada Namaskara. The invocation involved 3 processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. As we do every week, we will read one text from one of Prabhupada's lectures explaining the benefit of reading this great transcendental literature of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This week we will read from a garden conversation on June 27th, 1976 in New Vrindavan, from a garden conversation with Srila Prabhupada on June 27th, 1976. Kula Shekara. Srila Prabhupada. It says that the Chaitanya Charitamrita is the postgraduate study of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada. Hear him. What does he say? Pushta Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study. Devotees. Chaitanya Charitamrita, postgraduate study. Kula Shekara. So if we're very attracted to reading Chaitanya Charitamrita now, but we haven't finished Srimad Bhagavatam as yet, should we wait until we have studied Srimad Bhagavatam thoroughly? Prabhupada. It does not mean that one who is not postgraduate, he cannot read other books. Spiritual life is not a stereotype like that. But one who is not postgraduate, it is a little difficult for him to understand the statement of, just like in the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, Na Chaitanyat Krishna's Jagati Paratatvam Paramiha, that there is no superior truth than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So if you have not studied Srimad Bhagavatam, you'll not understand this statement. If you understand, yes, Chaitanya is the supreme truth, then it is to be understood that you have graduated. And if you are not, then it will be difficult for you to understand. Kula Shekara. Then the more we understand Srimad Bhagavatam, the more we'll understand the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada, yes. And if you understood Bhagavatam thoroughly, then you can understand Chaitanya Charitamrita. But if you have not understood Bhagavatam, then you cannot understand Chaitanya Charitamrita. The simple statement, Na Chaitanyat Krishnat Paratatvam Paramiha. Where is Chaitanya Charitamrita? Bring. Pushta Krishna. Which volume, Srila Prabhupada? Prabhupada, first volume. That means you are not reading, you simply are referring. This is the difficulty. Without thoroughly reading something, we bring so many questions. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore forbidden Bahu Shastra Napore. Don't bother yourself reading so many books at a time. You'll be puzzled. Find out this verse, Yadadvaitam Brahmopanishadi. Pushta Krishna. I don't believe there's an index in this first volume. Prabhupada, in the first chapter you'll find Drishtadumna, 17th verse. What is described in the Upanishads? Prabhupada, Yadadvaitam Brahmopanishadi. Pushta Krishna. Yadadvaitam Brahmopanishadi tadapi asyatanubha. Yatmantaryami purusha iti sosyam shavibhavaha. Shadeshvaryeh purno yaya bhagavan satsvayamayam. Nachetanyat Krishna's jagati paratatvam paramiha. From Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adilila 1:3. What the Upanishads describe as the impersonal Brahman is but the effulgence of his body, and the Lord known as the Supersoul is but his localized plenary portion. He is the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, full with 6 opulences. He is the absolute truth, and no other truth is greater than or equal to him. Prabhupada. This is the beginning of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So will anyone be able to understand this verse? Everything is stated there. What is Chaitanya? Will everyone be able to understand it? That is the proof that he is not graduate. If he's graduate, then he should understand. Therefore, it is postgraduate, Kuladri. One must understand Bhagavad Gita before Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada, yes. It is stated there, Yadadvaitam Brahma Upanishadi. That means he must understand the Upanishads. He must understand what is Brahman. So without understanding this, how he can understand Chaitanya Charitamrita? It will be explained there, but the fact is this. What is that? Is there any explanation? Pushta Krishna. No, there's no purport to this verse. Prabhupada. So further on there is explanation. Find out that. Devotee. Srila Prabhupada, how does one know when he has the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita? Prabhupada, what does he say? Answer him. Pushta Krishna, what did you say? Devotee, how does one know when he has the understanding of Bhagavad Gita? Drishtadumna, one who has understood Bhagavad Gita, who surrenders to Krishna, because Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Bhagavad Gita 1866, that the essence of all knowledge is to surrender unto me, to give up all other duties. So one who takes that instruction as life and soul, he has understood Bhagavad Gita. Is that all right? Pushta Krishna. The same verse again in the second chapter. The compilers of the Upanishads speak very highly of the impersonal Brahman. The Upanishads, which are considered the most elevated portion of the Vedic literatures, are meant for persons who desire to get free from material association and who therefore approach a bona fide spiritual master for enlightenment. The prefix upa indicates that one must receive knowledge about the absolute truth from a spiritual master. One who has faith in his spiritual master actually receives transcendental instruction, and as his attachment for material life slackens, he is able to advance on the spiritual path. Knowledge of the transcendental science of the Upanishads. Prabhupada, where's that boy? You are hearing? Devotee, yes, Prabhupada. Pushta Krishna. Knowledge of the transcendental science of the Upanishads can free one from the entanglement of existence in the material world. And when thus liberated, one can be elevated to the spiritual kingdom of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by advancement in spiritual life. The beginning of spiritual enlightenment is realization of impersonal Brahman. Such realization is effected by gradual negation of material variegatedness. Impersonal Brahman realization is the partial distant experience of the absolute truth that one achieves through the rational approach. It is compared to one seeing a hill from a distance and taking it to be a smoky cloud. A hill is not a smoky cloud, but it appears to be one from a distance because of our imperfect vision. In imperfect or smoky realization of the absolute truth, spiritual variegatedness is conspicuous by its absence. This experience is therefore called Advaita Vada, or realization of the oneness of the absolute. The impersonal glowing effulgence of Brahman consists only of the personal bodily rays of the Supreme Godhead Sri Krishna. Since Sri Gaurasundara or Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is identical with Sri Krishna himself, the Brahman effulgence consists of the rays of his transcendental body. Similarly, the Supersoul, which is called the Paramatma, is a plenary representation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Antaryami, the Supersoul in everyone's heart, is the controller of all living entities. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, wherein Lord Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hriddhi sannivishtaha. I am situated in everyone's heart, Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Bhagavad Gita also states, Bhoktaram yajñatapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram. Bhagavad Gita 5:29, indicating that the Supreme Lord, acting in his expansion as the Supersoul, is the proprietor of everything. Similarly, the Brahma Samhita states, Andantarasta paramanuchayantarastam. Brahma Samhita 5:35. The Lord is present everywhere within the heart of every living entity and within each and every atom as well. Thus, by the Supersoul feature, the Lord is all-pervading. Furthermore, Lord Chaitanya is also the master of all wealth, strength, fame, beauty, knowledge, and renunciation, because he is Sri Krishna himself. He is described as Purna, or complete. In the feature of Lord Chaitanya, the Lord is an ideal renouncer, just as Sri Rama was an ideal king. He accepted the order of sannyas and exemplified exceedingly wonderful principles in his own life. No one can compare to him in the order of sannyas. Although in Kali Yuga, acceptance of the sannyas order is generally forbidden, Lord Chaitanya accepted it because he is complete in renunciation. Others cannot imitate him, but can only follow in his footsteps as far as possible. Those who are unfit for this order of life are strictly forbidden by the injunctions of the Shastras to accept it. Lord Chaitanya, however, is complete in renunciation as well as all other opulences. He is therefore the highest principle of the absolute truth. By an analytical study of the truth of Lord Chaitanya, one will find that he is not different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. No one is greater than or even equal to him. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, Mattaha parataram nanyat, kinchidasti dhananjaya. Bhagavad Gita 7:7. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Thus, it is here confirmed that there is no truth higher than Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya. The impersonal Brahman is the goal of those who cultivate the study of books of transcendental knowledge, and the Supersoul is the goal of those who perform the yoga practices. One who knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead surpasses realization of both Brahman and Paramatma, because Bhagavan is the ultimate platform of absolute knowledge. The personality of Godhead, is the complete form of Satchidananda, for life, knowledge, and bliss. By realization of the Sat portion of the complete whole, unlimited existence, one realizes the impersonal Brahman of the Lord. By realization of the Chit portion of the complete whole, unlimited knowledge, one can realize the localized aspect of the Lord, Paramatma. But neither of these partial realization of the complete whole can help one realize Ananda, or complete bliss. Without such realization of Ananda, knowledge of the absolute truth is incomplete. This verse of Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadasa Kaviraja Goswami is confirmed by a parallel statement in the Tattva Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami. In the 8th part of Tattva Sandarbha, it is said that the absolute truth is sometimes approached as impersonal Brahman, which, although spiritual, is only a partial representation of the absolute truth. Narayana, the predominant deity in Vaikuntha, is to be known as an expansion of Sri Krishna. But Sri Krishna is the supreme absolute truth, the object of the transcendental love of all living entities. Prabhupada, so is it clear? Laughs. It is not so easy. Therefore, it is postgraduate. Pushta Krishna. Can these things be understood theoretically, Srila Prabhupada, or is realization required? Prabhupada, realization required. What is the use of theoretical knowledge? Devotee, Srila Prabhupada, can realization be had through service without theoretical understanding? Prabhupada, this whole science is understood through service only. Everything becomes revealed. Sevan mukhehi jivado swayameva spuratyadaha. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:2-34. Revelation. Everything is revelation. Unless one is very sincere servant, there is no revelation. So we'll proceed to the next part of the program. What we will have now is a discussion with, let me first tell a little story. In 1973 in December, Guru Kripa Swami and myself, we came to Los Angeles and we saw Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada asked us numerous questions about our program. One of the questions he asked was, well, what time do you get up in the morning and what do you do? Said, well, we get up at 3:45, 3:30, and we take a cold bath and we put tilak and we have Mangal Artik and Tulsi Puja like that. But this was when we were traveling in a van. And Prabhupada said, yes, that is very nice. When you take cold bath, cold shower, during the Brahma Muhurta time, which is like an hour and 46 minutes before the sunrise, it says you will prolong your life doing that. Oh, very nice. So anyway, Prabhupada used to say that when I was living at the Radha Damodar temple, I used to do that every day, even in the winter, even when it was cold in the winter. So anyway, what I will read now is a lecture from Srila Prabhupada in London, England, on August 28, 1973. August 28, 1973. This is a lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, text number 5. Prabhupada, immediately, moment after moment, you're getting pure water. Especially in India, there are so many nice rivers, Ganges, Yamuna, Godavari, Kaveri, Krishna, Sindhu. There are many rivers, all very nice water. In the Western countries, I've seen one river very nice in Montreal. What is that river? St. Lawrence, yes. All other rivers I've seen are very unclean, especially in Moscow, Hamburg. Oh, it is so dirty. So in India, the rivers are very clean and people take pleasure in taking bath in rivers. If there is river, nobody will take bath at home. They will go to the river, and it is very refreshing. That you know. So this example is very nice, that if you go to the river, then your all purposes are served. But in the village, they are restricted that this well is for this purpose, this well is this purpose. It may be crowded. You have to wait for the opportunity. But the river is open. You can go there and have your business done very nicely. Another reading that Prabhupada had, Prabhupada says, now the bhumi or the land gives us sufficient supply. Therefore there is arrangement of the river, nadi, nadyaha. And the stock of water is there in the ocean. It is practical. Just like you keep some stock of water according to your measurement. The stock of water is the ocean because we require so much water. In India, it is said that you are spending like water. India is a tropical country. They use profusely water. There are many rivers also. They take bath in the river, especially Ganges River. There are 5 very sacred rivers, the Ganges, Yamuna, Narmada, Godavari, Krishna. Big rivers there are. So tropical country, there is sufficient supply of water and you use it for cleanliness. Natural antiseptic water. Any septic, you simply wash with water, it will be antiseptic natural. In India, even the poorest man who has no sufficient cloth, but he will daily wash the cloth twice. And it is tropical country, there is no difficulty. You wash and within 5 minutes it is dry. So antiseptic. So arrangement is so nicely made. Purnada Purnamidam. Krishna's arrangement is very nice. So the purpose of this special event, this is a mantra that is given in the Shastras to bring these 7 sacred rivers. When you take a shower or bath, you should always cover the lower part of the body with cloth, either a gamcha or a cloth. It is Gangecha Yamune Cheva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalismin Sannidhim Kuru. And this brings the water of these 7 sacred rivers. Well, repeat it again. Gangecha Yamune Cheva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalismin Sannidhim Kuru. Also, this can be used for achaman or the purification. When you have your cup, you put water in the hand, the right hand, from the spoon that is held in the left hand. You take the water, put it in the right hand and sip it 3 times, then wash the hand. That is called achaman. So this is a very important mantra, and by doing that, you are bringing the waters of the sacred rivers into your bath or shower. Hare Krishna. So we will proceed with our reading of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I believe we're on chapter 4, text 171. All synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Text 171. Ataeva kama preme bahuta antara kama andatamaha prema nirmala bhaskara. Ataeva, therefore, kama preme, in lust and love, bahuta, much, antara, space, between, kama, lust, andatamaha, blind darkness, prema, love, nirmala, pure, bhaskara, sun. Translation. Therefore, lust and love are quite different. Lust is like dense darkness, but love is like the bright sun. Text 172. Ataeva gopiganera nahi kama ganda, Krishna sukha lagi matra Krishna se sambandha. Ataeva, therefore, Gopi Ganera, of the gopis, nahi, not, kama ganda, the slightest bit of lust, Krishna sukha, the happiness of Lord Krishna, lagi, for, matra, only, Krishna, Lord Krishna, say that. Sambandha, the relationship. Translation. Thus there is not the slightest taint of lust in the gopis' love. Their relationship with Krishna is only for the sake of his enjoyment. Text 173. Yatte sujata charanam buroham staneshu bitaha shanepriya dhadimahi karkasheshu tenatavim matasi tadvyatate nakim svit kurpadibir brahmatidhir bhavadayusham naha. Yat which te sujata, very fine, charana amburuham, lotus feet, staneshu, on the breast, bita, being afraid, shane, gently, priya, O dear one, dadimahi, we place, karkasheshu, rough, tena, with them, atavim, the path, atasi, you roam, tat, they, vyatate, are distressed, na, not, kim svit, we wonder, kurpa adibihi, by small stones and so on, brahmati, flutters, dihi, the mind, bhavat ayusham, of those of whom your lordship is the very life, naha, of us. O dearly beloved, your lotus feet are so soft that we place them gently on our breast, fearing that your feet will be hurt. Our life rests only in you. Our minds, therefore, are filled with anxiety that your tender feet might be wounded by pebbles as you roam about on the forest path. Purport. This text from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-19 was spoken by the gopis when Krishna left them in the midst of the Rasa Leela. Text 174. Atma sukha dukke gopirannahika vichar Krishna sukha etu cheshta mano vyavahar. Atma sukha dukke, in personal happiness or distress, gopira, of the gopis, nahika, not, vichara, consideration, Krishna sukha etu, for the purpose of Lord Krishna's happiness, cheshta, activity, manaha, of the mind, vyavahara, the business. Translation. The gopis do not care for their own pleasures or pains. All their physical and mental activities are directed toward offering enjoyment to Lord Krishna. Text 175. Krishna lagi arsaba kare parityaga, Krishna shuka etu kare shuddha anuraga. Krishna lagi, for Lord Krishna, ara, other, saba, all, kare, do, parityaga, give up, Krishna shuka etu, for the purpose of Lord Krishna's happiness, kare, do, shuddha, pure, anuraga, attachments. Translation. They renounce everything for Krishna. They have pure attachment to giving Krishna pleasure. Text 176. Evam madartu jihita loka veda svanam hivo mayanu vrittaye bhala maya paroksham bhajatati rohitam masuyitam marhata tat priyam priya. Evam, thus, mat artha, for me, ujjihita, rejected, loka, popular customs, veda, Vedic injunctions, Svanam, own families, he certainly, va of you, mayi me, anuvrittaye, to increase regard for, abalaha, O women, maya, by me, paroksham, invisible, bhajata, favoring, tirohitam, withdrawn from sight, ma, me, asuyitam, to be displeased with, ma'arhata, you do not deserve, tat, therefore, priyam, who is dear, priyaha, O dear ones. Translation: O my beloved gopis, you have renounced social customs, scriptural injunctions, and your relatives for my sake. I disappeared behind you only to increase your concentration upon me. Since I disappeared for your benefit, you should not be displeased with me. Purport. This text from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32-21 was spoken by Lord Krishna when he returned to the arena of the Rasa Leela. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namaum Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhakti Vedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadati Visheshataham Adadhanastrinam Danter Idam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Amsho Bhagavatu Smyaham Sadadasu Asmi Sarabata Tat Kripa Pikshako Nityam Tat Preshta Shat Karomi Svam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We see in the pages of Chaitanya Charitamrita some very high concepts of spiritual understanding. Very clear presentation by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. It is quite noteworthy that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita itself, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami presents himself as lower than the worm in the stool, that anyone who hears his name loses all of his pious activities, and anyone who recites his name incurs great impious activity. I'm paraphrasing here. In other words, he's exhibiting the greatest example of Vaishnava humility. Very, very important point. Very important point. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was living in Vrindavan when Jiva Goswami was there, when Raghunath Das Goswami was there, And he composed this exalted literature when he was very advanced in age. He mentions in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that he was almost blind, he was almost crippled, he had a lot of physical infirmities, but yet he delivered that most exalted transcendental literature, which Prabhupada calls the postgraduate study of spiritual life. There is a certain process which Srila Prabhupada has described to understand the gradual realization of the absolute truth. First, you study Bhagavad Gita, then Srimad Bhagavatam, then Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there are certain basic fundamental truths that one has to assimilate, one has to understand in order to progress more and more. It is very similar in the understanding of what is a pure devotee, what is a liberated soul, what is the Paramhamsa, or the highest perfection of spiritual devotional life. What does that mean? What does that practically mean when we say somebody is a pure devotee, somebody is an exalted soul, somebody is a liberated soul? Because in Srila Prabhupada's teachings, there are places where he mentions sometimes, he uses the term, the pure devotees of the Krishna consciousness movement, basically involving that everyone who's engaged in the cultivation and preaching of Krishna consciousness is also considered by him a pure devotee. There are some other places where Prabhupada describes our pure devotee personally embraces Krishna, directly sees Krishna, has perfectly realized Krishna. So there's different levels of realization. And it's important to understand that because we are living, especially those of us who live in Western countries, America, North America, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, these countries have fairly high technological advancement, material advancement, but spiritually, they are more or less Shudras. Most people do not have very deep understanding of spiritual life. Although they have certain prescribed religious sects or religious affiliations, still, in order to properly understand spiritual life, it begins to understand and accept who is a bona fide spiritual master or spiritual preceptor. This is given in the Mundaka Upanishad, Tad Vigyaratam Gurumeva Bigachet Samit Panihi Shotriyam Brahmanishtam. That in order to understand the transcendental science, one has to approach a bona fide teacher, a bona fide preceptor, to understand spiritual life. Now, previously, from a historical perspective in India, people used to approach a guru. They used to live in villages or small place, and they used to approach the guru and have very close personal relationship with him. That was the standard, to receive some instruction, take initiation from him. In the history of our Gaudiya Sampradaya, there have been many great, powerful acharyas, powerful Mahabhagavatas, the six Goswamis, Krishnadas Kaviraj, Srinivas Acharya, Shyamananda, Narottam Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Baladev Vidyabhushana, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our own Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Now these great acharyas, especially the last three great acharyas, they have emphasized the publication of literatures and distribution of literatures as the modern way of preaching. Previously, after the disappearance of Lord Chaitanya, in 1572 AD, there was a big festival in East Bengal, what is now called Bangladesh, in a place called Keturi. And so many different branches of Lord Chaitanya assembled there. And the wife of Lord Nityananda, Janava Mata, organized the festival along with Narottam Das Thakur. It lasted for several days. They installed 6 different kinds of deities in those temples there. And they had elaborate discussions on the theology of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the theology of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. What is the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What is the correct understanding? Because it was well known during the manifested presence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu between 1486 AD to 1534 AD, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had requested the 6 Goswamis to go to Vrindavan to re-establish the places of Lord Krishna's pastimes and to write literatures on the science of Krishna consciousness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself spent quite a bit of time with both Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami in Varanasi on the bank of the Ganges, instructing them of what they should write about Vaishnava literatures, what categories they should cover. So this festival of Keturi basically was a very important festival in the history of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, because there were many different understanding and different levels of understanding with different followers of Advaita Acharya, different followers of Nityananda, various other associates of Lord Chaitanya who were with him at Navadvip, who had the correct understanding of the position of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Janava Mataji very expertly, not only did she cook and arrange the whole festival, along with the local king, but she brought all these Vaishnavas together for the satisfaction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, why do we mention this? Because those who are very serious, those who are very dedicated to the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, have to understand the position, the exalted position of Srila Prabhupada, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In the Bhagavad Gita, when the Bhagavad Gita was published in 1972, there was a picture of Srila Prabhupada that was there in the original Macmillan edition, and it described Prabhupada as the greatest preacher of Krishna consciousness in the Western world, something to that effect. In 1983, when the overzealous editors republished the book, they took that out. They took that mention of Srila Prabhupada out. Now, this is totally inappropriate. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada not only is he the greatest exponent of Krishna consciousness in the Western world, but he's the greatest exponent of Krishna consciousness in the whole world. And this comes back to the first point I was discussing in the beginning of this discussion, that previously people used to physically approach the Guru. Now in Kali Yuga, the Yuga Acharya Srila Prabhupada, he is approaching prospective disciples and giving them the mercy, giving them the transcendental knowledge, giving them the Divyam Jnanam, the supreme transcendental knowledge through his literatures. That's assuming that people can get an original, non-edited, non-adulterated literature. Now, this is a very important point. We all know the famous story when somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, what if people don't read the books, if they just keep it in their house? And Prabhupada said, they will be benefited. Even if they just touch the book, they will be benefited. In the Nectar of Devotion, there's a nice mention how if one keep the Srimad Bhagavatam in the home, this is very auspicious, and the whole family, the whole home will be benefited. This is very important, because the whole purpose of approaching a spiritual preceptor is not just because he is living or physically present. The whole purpose is to get spiritual knowledge, spiritual understanding. That is the purpose. It's not a fashion. Oh, everybody is accepting such and such a spiritual man. Let me go see. That is fashion. We don't conduct our spiritual activities on the basis of a fashion trend. That is not how it works. Those who are serious about spiritual life should make a detailed study of Srila Prabhupada's teachings, engage in chanting the Maha Mantra, associate with like-minded devotees, worship Krishna, chant the holy name, and gradually try to bring up to chanting 16 rounds a day if one doesn't do that already. And in this way, one will make spiritual progress. This is the actual process that Prabhupada is given. This is the actual spiritual understanding. Now, there's another understanding that has been propagated by some persons. We're not going to engage in a full-fledged expose or discussion at this time. But there are some people who claim that they had received a secret appointment via some barely audible audio tape in 1977. It's a pious belief. It's an interesting note. But how to prove this? How will they ever be able to prove this, since there is no record between April of 1977 and November 14th, 1977, when the Acharya chose to depart from this mundane world? He's still here spiritually. So where's the mention of this so-called appointment of successor gurus or initiating acharyas? The other day I was discussing with a devotee who was asking a question on this issue. And he was saying, well, the first point should be, how does Srila Prabhupada define initiation or initiated? This is very important, because many people say, well, we should follow the tradition. Well, the tradition according to whom? Who's going to define the tradition? If we want to understand Prabhupada's teachings, we have to understand how Prabhupada defines certain terms, certain words, certain expressions. That is how to understand. Initiation means beginning. This is very important. Why did Prabhupada say to one devotee, Vaikuntanath, in late October of 1972 in Vrindavan, India, during the Nectar of Devotion lectures, when he asked Srila Prabhupada that you were distributing these books all over the world, and these books are telling people they should be initiated, but in many places we don't have temples. How will they be initiated? And Prabhupada's reply was, when they read my books, they are being initiated. In other words, they're getting the initial beginning of spiritual life. That is what the initiation is about. The initiation means to come closer to the spiritual master, to come to the correct understanding. And this is very important, because anywhere around the world, there are many universities, educational institutions, colleges, in various places where they study the history of various religions. They study the literatures that comprise the fundamental basis of Christianity, of Islam, of Buddhism, Sikhism, Hinduism, all different kinds of studies, different research programs, different study programs. But literatures like the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita can only be understood if one hears from a pure devotee. We've often discussed the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his confidential associate, Swarup Damodar Goswami. Swarup Damodar Goswami was Lord Chaitanya's secretary. Nobody could come and present anything to Lord Chaitanya without first going through Swarup Damodar, and he would review whatever was submitted. So one Vaishnav came and submitted something for Lord Chaitanya, and Swarup Damodar reviewed it, and he gave him the recommendation, Bhagavat Paradiya Bhagavata Pori, that in order to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, you have to hear and serve a Vaishnava Bhagavata, a pure devotee. Now this is very important. This is very, very important. It comes back to the point of discussion. There are many persons who study Sanskrit, Bengali, Tamil, various Indian languages, various literatures. There are many such departments in many universities around the world. They will study word for word the Vedas, so many different literatures. But unless they hear from somebody who is an actual Bhagavata, a pure Vaishnava devotee, they will not understand. They will guaranteed misunderstand. And this is very important because we practically see how many devotees get misled by various propaganda, by various items of propaganda, by different groups, different splinter groups. And this is very, very important to understand why people become misled. There's a very interesting conversation with Srila Prabhupada. It's in a book called Dialectical Spiritualism. Prabhupada is discussing with Shyama Sundar about Mao Zedong and communism. Prabhupada is Shyama Sundar. He says, that is in every sphere. Why communist? Shyama Sundar. He has another slogan to resolve conflicts within the party of unity, criticism, unity. A dialectic, unity, criticism. The thesis is unity, the antithesis is criticism. Prabhupada, then what is his reply to this dialectic proposition? That I say that you, Mr. Mao, you are not independent, you are controlled. Shyama Sundar, he'll say, yes, I am controlled by the higher truth of the socialist law, communistic law. Prabhupada, no. Even there is no communistic law, still you are controlled apart from the communistic law. You are controlled by the nature's law. How can you avoid it? Shyama Sundar, well, being only a combination of matter, I must be born and I must die, everyone. Prabhupada, yes, but you want to be independent. You want to be uncontrolled. That is not possible. Why it is not possible? And if you are controlled, who's controlling you? What is the background of that control? So these answers they cannot give, they avoid. Shyama Sundar, they're not interested because they say that, Prabhupada, they're not interested, that is not a fact. If I challenge you, just like here is Mr. Lawyer. In the law court, he's asking one question. If the other party says, I'm not interested, that will not be sufficient. Do you think? Laughs. You must be interested. You are in the law court. Shyama Sundar, he says the only criterion for truth is its practical application in society. Prabhupada, the practical, first of all, you prove practically that you are independent. Shyama Sundar, it wouldn't make any difference because, Prabhupada, why not difference? My point is, if your basic principle is wrong, then how you can make a perfect proposal? Shyama Sundar, well, I'm not concerned with questions about my origin or about the nature of matter except that, Prabhupada, then you are interested in the superficial things. Shyamasunder, yes, only as it applies to society. Prabhupada, that superficial means it is changing. It will never be perfect. If you take superficial thing, then it is changing always. That is nature's law. Shyamasundar, my only interest is in the dictatorship of the proletariat, that everyone should have an equal opportunity, equal pay, equal property, everything. Prabhupada, that is theory, but it will never be successful. Why in Russia there is manager? Managers pay and the workers pay. Why not equal pay? Ribati Nandana, he says abolish that. Mao says abolish that system. Devotee, no, Russia is not a communist state. Ribati Nandana, the Chinese scoff at the Russians that they're not communists. They say we will not abide by this different manager. Only one pay scale for everybody. Prabhupada, first of all, this communistic idea came from Russia and China imitated. Devotee, well, it came out of the proponent philosophers. Prabhupada, anyway, the Russia is supposed to be the leader of the communistic idea. Ribati Nandana, they don't accept anymore. There is Mao. Prabhupada, similarly, sometimes after, he will not be accepted. That is my proposition. As Russia is not accepted now, some days after, he will not be accepted. Similarly, your also theory will fail. That is my proposition, because I challenge that your theory is not perfect. Because Russia's theory was not perfect, it has failed. Similarly, I say, your theory is also imperfect, and therefore, it will fail. Anything imperfect will fail. That is my proposition. Ribati Nandana. His propaganda is that it is perfect because it has made the Chinese people propaganda. By propaganda, you can do anything. That is a different thing. But fact is fact. If your theory is not perfect, you make however propaganda, it will fail. Shyamasundar. But our people are all employed. They're all clothed nicely. Prabhupada. Temporarily, it may be glittering. Just like a polished thing. Temporarily, it looks very brilliant, shine. But in course of time, it will become black. That's all. Because it is not actually shining. Gold shining and artificial shining, there is a difference. Shyamasundar. He says that there is class conflicts. These class conflicts can be resolved through prosecution and repression of counter-revolutionaries at home. Prabhupada, that is going on. It is not a new thing that in order to establish peace, you kill somebody. Shyamasundar, if there's any counter-revolutionaries, you prosecute or repress them. Prabhupada, that is going on. That is not a new thing. That is going on in the animal kingdom. What is the use of your philosophy? Without having philosophy, this is going on in the animal kingdom. So what is the use of your philosophy? By philosophy, you give something which will not create any conflict. But by conflict, by crushing, by subduing, if you want to establish your peace, then what is the value of this peace? Shyamasundar. He says, we also have to prevent foreign intervention. Prabhupada, if your theory is perfect, why there should be foreign intervention? So Prabhupada is discussing a major point here, that merely by mere propaganda, you cannot solve problems. The problems will keep occurring. And what we saw in our movement after Srila Prabhupada's departure in 1977, this crushing, beating, suppression, oppression, avoiding discussion, suppressing crucial, important discussions with Srila Prabhupada, That does not accomplish anything. And we see that 46 years later, these discussions are still going on all over the place without any practical conclusion. Of course, it's not very difficult to reach a practical conclusion if one accepts the authority of the Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. But those who are motivated, personal motivated for profit, adoration, and distinction, and it's manifested in posing, posturing, and pretending. Those who are in that category, for them, it's very difficult to accept the order of the Acharya. They will always have some clever misinterpretation, always. Let's open it up for discussion. If anybody has any question, we'll ask for some comments. Maybe Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas. Would you like to comment, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful class today. Since we're having Gaur Purnima coming up pretty soon in a couple of weeks, and having these readings in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's kind of a beautiful thing to start hearing about. Well, like we heard today, that Prabhupada had 1966 his first Gaur Purnima celebration in America, and apparently he was by himself, so he just had some milk and fruit in the evening time. We just read this today somewhere on some social media, and we were just thinking that sometimes on Gaur Purnima we may be involved with Abhishek, different activities. So it seems very beautiful to read about Lord Chaitanya's birth, and we're reading about this, and also today we went to the park. We're chanting japa there, and just this one park ranger started a conversation. He was kind of making sure everybody in the park was very happy and appreciated all the services were proper, and he was telling us he was praying for Alexis, praying to God to give him Alexis. And then I told him, well, why don't you pray to the Supreme Lord to help give you money in your spiritual bank account? And he said, yeah, you're right. So we had a little discussion about this, philosophical discussion for about 10 minutes. And he was very nice man. And I said, we can give us your phone number, we'll call you, and we have some programs. And he said, yeah, I'm interested in meditation, yoga. So this is kind of like we may feel like we're alone sometimes, and then something like this happens. It happens almost every day or a few days that you meet somebody and out in the public at a park. So this is kind of the spirit of Gaur Purnima, that Lord Chaitanya is blessing all of us. He's very happy when we read about his pastimes. And thank you for the class today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I guess it comes back to the point I was making, that Srila Prabhupada, through his books all over the world, he is approaching different individuals in all kinds of circumstances. Again, that's assuming people are getting a non-adulterated book, and people get the mercy of association with a pure devotee. You cannot expect that everyone, even during Prabhupada's manifested presence, when we study how Prabhupada conducted things, he had different associates, different leaders, different devotees doing things on his behalf. He was training devotees to become actual representative of his mission, to become actual representative of the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to take responsibility to preach, to give the knowledge to others. And the principal means by which he did this was the Brihad Madanga preaching effort. Now, previously in Bengal, they had the Goswami families, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur refers to those as different upasampradayas, who over the ages, they became contaminated with this monopoly idea, that because somebody was born in a family of an associate of Lord Chaitanya, they thought that this is very special, we're in a special position, we're the only ones. And we see this in Vrindavan, with caste Goswamis, in Navadvip and other places in Bengal, with people thinking that they are in a very special position. It's interesting, in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada says, well, that kind of Nityananda Vamsa who claim that I'm a descendant of Nityananda, they sit, eat very nicely with their wife and family, and don't do any preaching. This is not very good. And what Prabhupada and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did is a revolution in the mode of preaching of the Gaudiya Sampradaya. It says, let the Brihad Madanga, the distribution of literature, go all over the world. Let it be distributed. Let the mercy come everywhere. That's why Prabhupada's books are so important. Everybody should have some of Prabhupada's books that you give to people. When you meet them, when you talk with them, somewhere or other you have an encounter with them, you give them a book. This will be the greatest benefit to anybody. I see that we have our good friend, Dr. Nilesh Prabhu, in Florida, in Miami. Prabhu, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. My question to you, Yashodanand Prabhu, is you were talking about the how you should avoid people who are after profit, adoration, and distinction. And right now, as we speak, we are witnessing the inauguration of the TVOP, the Temple of Vedic Planetarium in Mayapur. And on YouTube, we see that they just inaugurated the biggest Narasimhadev temple in the world. And it is pretty ornate. I mean, there are a lot of videos out there. So if we were to listen to the other camp, they say that, do you think that this such a great monument and such great opulence would have been possible by just faking ourselves through?
I don't know. To ask them to answer their own question.
Because it's a very grand monument, and the celebrations and everything are in a very, very big scale. And how would we say that, because we have known the background of TVOP, that how many times they have pushed back the opening of the temple, misappropriation of the funds, and everything which has gone back in the history of this TVOP. Even after when I forget his initiated name, the grandson of Mr. Ford, he took over the responsibility. I remember he saying that, it will be opened in 2000, 2005, 2010, 2020, and then it finally in 2024, it's still not in a complete condition, but they are close to the completion.
All we can say is we wish them the best. We just ask them not to distort the teachings. In 1971, in Calcutta, Naranarayana Prabhu, also called Vishwakarma by Srila Prabhupada, he made a model of the Mayapur temple. It looked very different. And I'm not saying this to criticize anybody, but the current temple they have there looks like the St. Peter, the Christian church in Rome. The original model that was done by Narayana and directly approved by Prabhupada. I was in Prabhupada's room when Prabhupada saw he made a model of that future temple. It looked like a Bengali, very, very big, huge temple, but the dome was Bengali architecture, traditional Vaishnav Bengali architecture. What they have there is Christian architecture, but that is besides the point. The major point, yes, you build very nice temples, that is good. In July of 1970 in New York, some devotees went and approached Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada, we want to open hundreds of temples all over the world. And Prabhupada's reply was, yes, you open so many temples, but if you neglect or disobey the order of the spiritual master, it will be simply show bottle. And Prabhupada said, do you know what show bottle is? And Prabhupada says, just like in India, sometimes in a pharmacy, they will have some colored glass bottle, but there's no medicine there. It is simply show bottle, no effect. So if you neglect the instruction of the spiritual master, it will have no effect. In other words, what I'm trying to say here, that big buildings are very nice. You glorify Krishna, make beautiful buildings, beautiful arrangement, big temples. Do not mess up his teachings, do not change his book. Garuda Prabhu, I see you have your hand up. Perhaps you'd like to make a comment, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yashodanandaji, thank you so much for your wonderful discourse, as usual. I very much appreciate it. About the temple, the TOVP, Prabhupada didn't give detailed instructions for the TOVP, and he left it up to devotees to fill in the details and so forth. What I found was a theological discrepancy in the big dome, the middle dome. The plan is to have the whole physical universe from bottom to top to be displayed in a chandelier, which would be hovering over the deities, the Guru Parampara altar, the Panchatattva altar, and the Radhamadava and Ashtasaki.
Ashtasakis.
Right, Ashtasaki. So the problem here is, now this is where, we're talking about the Chaitanya Charitamrita tonight. And when you, Yashodanandanaji, you read in the 4th chapter of the Adi Lila, Mahaprabhu Gauranga said, I have come to give the sweetness, the vision of sweetness, and all the world is enamored by Aishwarya. I'm coming to deliver the Madhurya. So what happens is there is a conflict, a theological and aesthetic conflict of focal points. So the devotees are down on the bottom level, meditating on the highest, as supposedly, but above them is the bottom end of the physical universe. How does that make any theological sense? How is that aligned with the Chaitanya Charitamrita's teachings? The highest is on the lowest in the TOVP. So I brought this up to devotees who are in charge of designing. And I quoted from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I said that the devotees chanting in the bottom will be seeing visitors in balconies up in the whole physical universe chandelier. And they'll be looking up, they'll be looking at the deities, and so on. I said it needs to be enclosed, it needs to be separate. Otherwise, you are giving great emphasis to the physical universe. And the devotee in charge, I went back and forth with him. He's got some kind of master's degree in science in Australia. And it occurred to me, I said, Prabhuji, I'm sorry, I need to ask you, have you ever read the Chaitanya Charitamrita? He said, well, I've read parts, and anyway, it was evident to me that he had not read the Chaitanya Charitamrita. If he would attend classes like this, he would become educated in how important it was to Mahaprabhu to, again, give the gift of Madhurya, while the whole world is enamored by Aishwarya. Aishwarya is there to lead to the Madhurya, and that's what the chandelier is supposed to do at the top. But it's not supposed to conflict with the devotee's intimate connection with Guru Parampara, Panchatattva, and Radha Krishna in the Ashtasakis, Radha Madhava in the Ashtasakis. So I proposed this with an elaborate architectural design and philosophy, and no one's done anything about it. And so as a scholar, I'm going to have to write about how the TOVP is not displaying the theology of Chaitanya Vaishnavism correctly. It is as it's stated in the Adi Lila, chapter 4. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention this, Yashodanandaji. What do you think? Am I completely off track here, or does this is starting to make some sense? I'd be happy to show you the slides sometime that I would deliver to the committee.
I think it's a very important point. It seems to me also a reflection of many conflicting contradictions that we see in the leadership in the movement. the leadership of the institution, not necessarily the movement. There's a clear difference. Prabhupada uses different terms of the institution, ISKCON, and the Krishna consciousness movement. There are many devotees who do not physically live in ISKCON temples or ISKCON facilities, but yet are part and parcel of the Krishna consciousness movement. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that this, just like this Christian resembling structure, Prabhupada never requested that structure, that type of structure.
Right.
No, the original idea was to have a separate display of the structure of the universe and everything. But Prabhupada gave many instructions to different people, so they may have their own interpretation, which is, we often see coming up. And just like I say, that my attitude with this is we wish them the best. We're not going to criticize any of their efforts in Mayapur. What personally and what Vishwakarma and many other devotees object is the distortion of the teachings of the foremost representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Srila Prabhupada, because that is very dangerous. Because we see in the traditional Vaishnava Sampradayas, particularly the Madhva, the Ramanujas, the Nimbarkas, that they have a very strict policy that you never touch, you never alter, you never change, you never, what they call in Sanskrit, the Sarva Mula Granta, the original text that is the fundamental premise of these Sampradayas, you don't start touching that.
No.
Because even in Sanskrit, somebody may say you can have different ways of saying Sanskrit that will not alter the meaning, but you can have different grammatical combinations, but you don't touch that. It is sacred. In Sri Rangam, there was one Pandit named Rangaraj Bhattar. He was a descendant of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. And we tried to go into the temple, and the priest over there refused us. They say, you cannot get in the temple. You're not Hindus. You people are Westerners. You're not Hindus. You can't come in here. The only person who can allow you in here, you have to go to his house. His name is Rangaraj Bhattar. He's the what's called Pradhan Archaka, the main priest of the whole Sri Rangan complex.
Yeah.
We said, okay, let's go see him. We went there, and the first thing we saw, there was a picture of Lord Chaitanya on the wall. We asked him, why do you have a picture of Lord Chaitanya on the wall? You're from the Ramanuja Sampradaya, Sri Vaishnava. He says, you do not know. This is the house where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed when he came to Sri Rangam in 1510 AD. We're like, oh. He says, we are descendants of Gopal Bhatta. Oh. And he showed us the actual chart of his family descendants, and he took us to the temple. They gave us special darshan. And as part of that tour, he took us to see some Sanskrit pillar that they had with some inscriptions that were written at the time of Vedanta Deshika, who was after Ramanuja. He was a big reformer in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. And basically, I asked him, in your Sampradaya, have you had any instances of somebody changing any word or any syllable? And he put his hand on his ear. He says, oh, we cannot touch anything. Nobody can touch. You can make comment. You can make commentary, like there have been many commentaries on Ramanuja's Vedanta Sutra or others, so many great acharyas, but you cannot change the original commentary. And this is the problem that I personally have with the situation in ISKCON. Many of us are getting a little old in the tooth. We won't be there very long. We won't be there in 20, 30, 40 years, or maybe in 5, 10 years. But Prabhupada's books will survive. But the way things are now, they're being translated and retranslated in different languages all around the world on a basis of a wrong translation that was done in 1983, an unauthorized, adulterated translation. This is not only non-scholarly, inappropriate, but it's basically nonsense. Prabhupada never gave the authorization to any of his disciples to change his books like that. He did not like. As a matter of fact, in 1977, on the 22nd of June, during the Rascal Editors conversation, when it was brought to Prabhupada's attention that there had been changes to his books, while he was still living, his first reaction says, they cannot change anything. Then another very important comment he made, he says, the next printing again should be the original way. Now, some people interpret that, especially with the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, a few chapters, they say it should be the 1976 edition, but Prabhupada didn't say that. Prabhupada said, they cannot change it, so don't change it. Leave it to the first edition. Now, one scholarly way of handling this, one technical scholarly way, is to annotate or put proper notes with sufficient scholarly explanations why there may be a difference between the 1962 edition or something. That is a proper way. But this thing of changing everything and claiming that this is the original of Bhaktivedanta, he has seen the truth, and they have seen the truth. It's two entirely different ideas. Yeah. When Prabhupada says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Adi Leela, that Jagannath Das Babaji initiated Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they didn't like that because it didn't fit into their initiation philosophy or misunderstanding of the philosophy. They took it out. They readjusted the writing. When they were challenged for an explanation, their explanation was to Dear Govinda Prabhu in Florida, that this did not correspond to our understanding of initiation in ISKCON. Excuse me? Who are you? We get our understanding from the authority of Srila Prabhupada, just like the Madhvas get their understanding from Madhvacharya, the Sri Vaishnavas get understanding from Ramanujacharya, the Nimbarkas follow the Nimbarkacharya. That is the standard Vedic understanding. Now, there can be any number of discussion or scholarly disputation, debates about the meaning of this, but you cannot change the words of the Acharya claiming that this is what you really intended, this is what you really meant. This is nonsense. Now, you can have whatever tower you want at Mayapur, you can have whatever stones and buildings you have. When you change the teachings of the Acharya, you become disconnected. You become an Apasampradaya. You don't follow the Acharya, you defy the Acharya. In Sanskrit, it's called Guru Drohi, one who challenges, who is disrespectful to the Acharya. That will not be allowed. Yeah. That is a very important point.
Yes. And as I've said to you and others here, once you change Prabhupada's words without his authorization, anything after that can go. Anything, any criminal act, anything can happen. And we see that that's what has happened.
Now, that's a very important point, because then people will say, well, Prabhupada, I know how to think. It's very similar to the initiation. Well, you're making so many points, but Prabhupada told us that we should manage the movement, so we made this decision in the best interest of the movement. What gives you the authority for all these interpretations, though? Yeah, Prabhupada made everything very clear. Yeah, he made everything very clear with regards to deity worship, his books, the preaching. Everything is very clear. But when it came to initiation, there was massive confusion that everybody has to run to this advisor, that advisor, come up with some philosophy that put on the uniform of the guru and it's going to tell you what to do. Prabhupada never preached that nonsense.
Or the imitation. Yeah, the imitation of Prabhupada. You know, the imitations of Prabhupada. They accept the lavish worship. And how is that deserved by anybody? In Prabhupada's movement, we honor Prabhupada with that kind of seva and that kind of puja. No one else is to receive that kind of honor and worship. We owe everything to Prabhupada. So as soon as we compromise the words, though, as you were just saying, Prabhuji, as soon as we feel like we can just walk into Prabhupada's books and change things arbitrarily, or to come up with the excuse that Hayagriva, had long hair and he had some issues and problems, you're indicting Prabhupada. Prabhupada chose Hayagriva. He was he had a master's degree in English. Prabhupada considered that Krishna's arrangement, that he should so early on receive a disciple who was expert in English. And he trusted Hayagriva. But it doesn't matter whom Prabhupada trusted. You accept the final work that he published. And to question that is to indict Prabhupada himself as the spiritual master. And this is a Guru Droha, as you just said.
Now, this is a very important point that will be discussed more and more in different programs to come, in different, because this issue is not going away. Let me give you an example. I have a relative in Canada. He's a fairly educated fellow. He's some kind of a master's degree, PhD in computer science. He manages entire government agencies with computers. And he's read the Krishna book. He's a vegetarian. He's done a little chanting. And he's heard about the issues through the internet about people changing the books. And he calls Prabhupada a prophet. He calls Prabhupada a prophet, like a very empowered, special, divine person who went all around the world. I mean, but never mind, this person is not an initiated devotee. He's read the Krishna book, he's read Bhagavad Gita, he's married to my sister. And he brought up to me, and he says, how can anybody change the words of the prophet, of the master? How? He's asked me, what are they thinking? What is in between their two ears that they think that they're authorized to change Prabhupada's sacred words and thinking that they will make this better? Incidentally, with regards to Hayagriva, there's a very important point. When Prabhupada was in Hawaii in 68, 69, he was with Govinda Dasi, and Govinda Dasi has testified that she personally saw Srila Prabhupada giving instructions to Hayagriva on how to do the editing of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He was supervising, watching over it and everything. It is not that I agree that he had some kind of a license to do whatever he wanted. He did whatever he wanted and it was just published. It was not like that. It was directly authorized and supervised by Srila Prabhupada. And this false idea that somebody's going to come a few years later and say, okay, let's redo the whole book, we make it better. But yet when Prabhupada found out about it, what did he say? He says, they cannot change anything. Now, French was my natural mother tongue in Canada. I don't have great command of English. I became a devotee when I was 16. I don't even remember if I finished high school. I never went to college. I learned English from studying Prabhupada's books. Okay. Now, one thing is, I know enough English. I'm not a PhD in English grammar. When Prabhupada says to anybody, they cannot change anything, it's pretty clear. Now, you're a lot more educated than me, and then somebody, Rupa Manjari Devi Mataji, she says that changing the Prabhupada's books is the crime of the millennium. That is factual. That is very dangerous, because now we see that these books are being retranslated in different languages all around the world on the basis of these changed, adulterated books.
Yes.
So now these people are thinking, I'm getting the real deal. I got books by Bhaktivedanta Swami. No, you're getting the books by some other Swami. You're not getting Prabhupada's books.
That's right.
And this is the problem, because they're injecting different philosophical misconceptions, different philosophical deviations to try to justify their monopoly on spiritual advancement. Like this nonsense idea, he has seen the truth, they have seen the truth. Jagannath Das Babaji did not initiate Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Who are you to delete Srila Prabhupada's own statements? Prabhupada did not give the authorization to any disciple. This is the Adi Leela, chapter 1 here. This is what I'm talking about. This is the original 1974 edition. Falling apart, but the text is still there. Okay, my point is, when the ISKCON leaders republished the Chaitanya Charitamrita, they basically deleted this section. They amended this section and deleted what Srila Prabhupada said. The direct disciple of Srila Kaviraj Goswami was Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who accepted Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti as his servitor. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur accepted Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, who initiated Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who in turn initiated Srila Gaurkishore Das Babaji, the spiritual master of Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, the divine master of our humble self. Why change this?
It's unthinkable. It's unthinkable, Prabhuji. It's
Yeah,
unthinkable.
it's
And that's
definitely
why
an
this book just came out, posthumous editing of a great master's work, special focus on Prabhupada. This book, you will find a history of fraudulent acts of the BBT since the 1980s up to the present that will just astound you. And this will be released in a matter of weeks, the information in this book. And it's a game changer. You will see, and the other devotees here will see changes that will be required of the BBT to be reconstituted and to return to Prabhupada's books. This is what you will see in 2024.
I want to address one question before we finish the program.
Yes.
From Vinayak Prabhu, and thank you, Garuda Prabhu, for your comments. This is from Vinayak Prabhu in Tokyo, Japan, or wherever he is in Japan. He says, how to understand the instruction of Srila Prabhupada in which he was saying that people with Bhaktivedanta degrees can become full-time spiritual masters and will be allowed to initiate. Well, that instruction was given in 1969, 70 in different letters to Hamsaduta, Kirtanananda, but it was never factually introduced. There's no record of Prabhupada actually introducing that. But Prabhupada left very clear instructions in 1977 how he wanted initiations in his society and in his movement to be conducted through different officiating representative or Ritvik representatives to initiate people on his behalf. People would become Prabhupada's disciples as disciples of his divine grace. They do not accept that, unfortunately, when it comes to prove their point that they had been appointed or so-called appointed. Nobody in the last 46 years has been able to document that. So anyway, that instruction is there, but it was never implemented. Then somebody is asking, can you show the book again? Where can I get that posthumous book? You can get that book from a devotee in Los Angeles named Madhudvisa at krishna.org. This is the original book. The cover is a little, I can't manage, but the actual book is, you have to buy the set. The original set had 17 volumes. It was published in 1974, 75. And then afterwards, after 1977, they republished the Chaitamrita, they edited it. So my point is, once they edited once, what's to prevent them from editing again? It's a disease. It's a very dangerous disease. So as far as this, where to get that book, it's not a posthumous book, it's still living. There are many people who have it. I don't think you can get the individual book. You have to buy the set. The 17-volume original Chaitanya Charitamrita, that is available in the this Krishna.org, or his name is Madhudvisa. I could send me an email at yasoda1008@yahoo.com, yasoda1008@yahoo.com, and I will make arrangements for you to get the book. If there's any other questions, we will conclude the program. We thank everybody for participating, and kindly excuse the long readings. I didn't have Vishwakarma to give his commentary today, so you were left with yours truly. Thank you, everybody. Puranjan, would you like to make a comment? I see that you're on the screen there.
Yeah, Haribel, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you. You can make a brief comment.
I'm going to make this quick. Yeah, the TOVP building, around, I'm not sure, around 2006, the followers of Jayapataka wrote to me and said, because I have helped the child molesting lawsuit, the Bangalore lawsuit, the BBTI lawsuit, and other things like that, I've cost ISKCON $100 million. And because of me, the TOVP building will not be completed on time. So they were blaming me for the building not getting done. So, but that is definitely one of the reasons it took so long, because they had a fundraising problem, and that was one of the problems. They were spending a lot of money on lawsuits. I mean, they spent $20 million just suing Bangalore. So that's part of the problem. The other thing I wanted to mention is right now in Mayapur, I can't really give all the names and details, but there's just a big meltdown going on amongst the whole congregation there. All the people who've been there for a long time are now realizing their children were molested or their friends' children were molested. And so there's a whole bunch of finger pointing and blame gaming going on, and a lot of anger and resentment. And I've posted little teeny sections of some of those conversations, just altering the names of the people on my blog, so you can kind of get a little vision of what's going on there. But basically, it's all catching up, that there's just been a lot of abuse there that's gone on and on and on. So they have a big building, but they haven't, they haven't taken care of the citizens, especially the children. And it's just catching up now. That's all there's to it.
That's a
So
very
that's
good point. Very
basically
good
what-
point. Go ahead.
That's all I wanted to say, really.
Okay. Thank you for your comment, Paranjan. I think
Yeah.
personally, my personal conviction, having been in the vortex of this controversy right from the beginning in 1978, and seeing the reluctance of the leaders to deal with the issues that were coming up at the time. I was with Prajimna, many devotees there in Vrindavan, many sannyasis, many learned Pandit devotees, and basically what we saw there was that there would be problems with this over nonsensical attitude that we're in charge, we're in power, we're going to decide, and you're all envious. Well, that's not the way to discuss philosophy. Just to cast aspersions, personal attacks, and nonsensical, outlandish accusations against devotees, untrue accusations, does not address the underlying philosophical issues. There's a way to discuss philosophical issues, and the traditional way is to debate, threadbare. They didn't want that. They didn't. As a matter of fact, one of these people said, "There's nothing to discuss. We have already discussed everything. They," meaning Prajimna, myself, and a few rebel rousers, "should just accept." But then a couple of months later, another one saying, "Oh, you're going to see what we're going to do to them when we go to Vrindavan. There's no place in our movement for smarta Brahmins like Prajimna and Yesudanandan and all these nonsense devotees." Okay, whatever we may be, first of all, it just displays their utter ignorance of what is a smarta Brahmin, for one thing. But the point is, don't hide behind your positions to avoid the philosophical issues. And the first and foremost issue that we're going to deal with, and we're not going to stop until it is completely resolved, is this nonsense changing of Prabhupada's books. That will be done. That will be fixed. Definitely. Definitely. Venkat Prabhu, if you could please go ahead. Thanks everybody for participating. Greatly appreciate all of your comments, although we've not dealt with all the questions and everything. Thank you. We'll have the kirtan, and thanks everybody for participating. Hare Krishna.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurabhatamda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaurabhatamda Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Let us offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thanks everybody for participating. Your appreciation and comments are greatly appreciated. Everyone. Hare Krishna.